So, let's talk about driver pay. So, I was sitting here watching a video from another YouTuber. I do that. And it was actually this guy Truck's video. And love him or hate him, he's full of energy. He will bring, sometimes it takes a while to get to his point, but he makes a lot of really good points. Now, one of the things he was talking about, and we're going to hit on a couple of them, was driver pay. That's better. And he brought up some really good points about driver pay and some of the different pay packages that company drivers are getting and some that the owner-operators are getting. And a lot of times this is where math comes in. And it was a really interesting discussion when he started talking about, getting paid and whatnot like that. Now, before we do that, there was one thing he did bring up, and this is going to kind of set the stage. I wish he would have done this in reverse order because it would have made a whole lot more sense to the last video, or the video before the last one. He said that I don't blame the drivers for any of this, it's the industry. He's 100% right, but let me expound on that. When you don't have companies that enforce the rules, and you don't have companies that hold drivers up to a decent standard, and you don't pay for performance, and you go to the bottom of the barrel, and you have no retention and all recruiting, you get what you get. It's a fact of life. You get what you get. You get job hoppers and bottom feeders. And these guys, and I've talked about this before, these guys go from job to job trying to seek employment to give themselves raises. They don't want to wait for it. They just keep going where they think the money is, and it's a complete lateral move. And I'll explain that here in a minute. So, he said he blames the industry. And you know what? When he started explaining that, I was like, he's 100% right. The industry hasn't held the standard. They haven't held the standard at all. Of course, when you look back and you see where all of this has come, they ran all the truck drivers out of the offices, thanks but no thanks. And that was a good thing and a bad thing. You have to be business minded, and I'll expound on that. I had a friend of mine who had a small trucking company, and he ended up just having all sorts of trouble, had all sorts of, just trying to put people in trucks, and everybody told him, you don't want to do this. Not right now, you don't want to do this. And he's like, no, I know some people, I got some guys that'll drive. He's like, I can make this work. His business plan was solid. The problem was that people were involved. And he started approaching his business as a truck driver rather than a businessman. And so he wanted to make the place a great place to work. He wanted to give the truck drivers the benefit of the doubt and a few options and this and that. And the other thing about what they were doing, they destroyed him. They absolutely destroyed him. So I understand why a lot of these companies ran the truck drivers out of the offices, but this is where it was a bad thing. It was a bad thing because the people in the office lack perspective, lack any real imagination. The majority of them have just a very bare, basic understanding of the e-logs. Everything's on a computer screen. You're just a blip. That's why I've said before, this is very impersonal. So the industry went downhill. I keep saying I'm going to do a video on deregulation, but I just don't want the headache, but I'll sum it up in a nutshell. Deregulation was basically, in a nutshell, the government busting the union and creating general freight so their friends could get rich. If you really look, It allowed, it busted the union, replaced the union with the government, and we have what we have. It created general freight, and that's where the guys charge the shippers an astronomical amount to haul it, pay the drivers little to nothing. It's the industry. And they cut the union out. Now, as non-union as I am, I do think the union in this case, you need the balance, but that's going to be a whole topic for another video, and I really don't like talking about this too much because, well, everybody has their own opinion, and then it becomes real unproductive. But he was right. It was the industry. So driver pay never really went up with the times. Now, everybody says, well, we're making more a mile now than ever, and this and that and the other thing. But when you get a 4% raise, as inflation goes up 8% raise, you lost 4%. So statistically, pay really hasn't gone up that much. But let's talk about some of the pay. So there are many different pay packages out here, and each company is going to do whatever pay package benefits them. They don't benefit you on the pay package. Your driver's pay is not a benefit to the company. It's how little will you haul this for. That's always been that way. Company driver, owner, operator, percentage, mileage, how little will you haul this for? You know, they have to find that point to where they can still hire drivers and pay them the minimal amount of money. Looks good on paper. But like Josh was saying in his video, every week he hit a wall. We'll talk about that wall. So some of the pay packages he described and some that I've come across are these. First, the 1099. As an owner-operator, you're going to get paid on a 1099. It's flat rate to the company. They just give you the percentage or whatever. And it's 1099. Now, a lot of these small companies are paying 1099s. If you got a guy who's got 3 or 4 trucks and wants to pay you a 1099, run from that dude. He's going broke. Paying company drivers on a 1099 is what led to things like the FedEx lawsuit and AB5 and all those other things like that. Well, that was part of AB5, but the FedEx lawsuit out in California, which triggered all of that, which really screwed the rest of the country, is basically paying company drivers off 1099. So if you pay a guy as a contractor, but you're expecting him to wear company swag that he's got to buy, you're making him do company routes at a company rate, represent the company, but you're not paying him any benefits or anything, that's not good. So the 1099 is one of them. And the next one, of course, is mileage. Now, there's many different kind of mileage that you can get paid many different kind of ways. A lot of company drivers do get paid on a percentage. And depending on what you're hauling, if you're hauling general freight like me, it can be rough. I would not recommend percentage of anybody who's going over the road as a company driver, because they're going to deadhead you 200, 300, 400 miles, and you're not getting paid for that. So if you're doing regional and your bounces are 20 and 30 miles, depending on what the percentage is, because remember, 27% of nothing is nothing, and that's between 25 and 27% is what company drivers are getting paid percentage. Now, I know a bunch of guys that are regional, paying percentage, getting paid percentage, are doing really well. Of course, they work off a W-2 and all that. They're doing well. And what that does is, in the region they work, they wouldn't be getting any miles. So the company realized that in order to keep the drivers happy, you have to pay them percentage because they can make a decent livable wage. All right, so let's talk about mileage. Now, mileage gets tricky. What ends up with mileage is there's multiple ways guys get paid. As an owner-operator, I worked for mileage, my first owner-operator job. Owned the truck outright. And what I've found out is that thankfully it's gone up a little bit, but what they want is you around $1 a mile, between $1 and $1.25 a mile. So a lot of times they'll throw the national average of the surcharge in or something like that. Like I was talking to a contractor out of Dallas that drives blue trucks with red lettering. That poor guy was getting 83 cents a mile plus the surcharge, and he was bumping around $1 a mile. That was their goal. This poor guy, they had him just, it was awful. So what ends up happening with mileage is they want you around. Now, the fuel surcharge is, for all intents and purposes, it's the price of fuel minus $1.35 divided by 6. So what is it, $3.44 here? So it's basically $2 divided by 6 right now, and that's what you're paying. Now, a lot of these pay packages, who's got a leaf blower out, a lot of these pay packages will involve the fuel surcharge, or they involve some other things. And this was the pay package that got me interested in that This Guy Trucks video right here. So he's sitting here talking about the 3 different pay packages where he works, and I'm not going to tell you where he works. He'll tell you if you want to watch. I don't degrade other companies too much, and I don't know enough about his company. He seems to like it there. That's awesome. But there was 3 different pay packages that were offered. If I remember right, there was the percentage with the fuel surcharge. There was a flat rate of like $1 something or rather, like $1.30 or something, plus the fuel surcharge, or it was the flat rate of $1.30 and you pay 99 cents a gallon for fuel, no matter what. No matter what the fuel price is, you pay. But you don't get the surcharge. And I got doing the math on that, and on the surface, the 99 cent sounds really good. We're going to break that down. So as you see right here, it's $1.44, $1.38. So we're going to do the cash price here. So we're going to do what is that? 3.44 minus 1.35 equals $2.09. Let's divide that by 6, which is average fuel mileage. $0.34. That's 34 cents a mile. So if you're getting 99 cents a gallon, but the fuel surcharge, and you're getting 6 miles a get, well, let's do the math on that. We had it figured out the other day, but basically we're doing 7 miles a gallon. What we figured out is you're paying, if you work the fuel surcharge, you're actually paying less than that. Let's say divided by 6. So basically this says you're paying 16 cents a mile. Whoops. Doggone it. 16.5 cents a gallon per mile. A mile per gallon, yeah. At 99 cents. Now, we figured it out with today's fuel surcharge and all that, depending on where you're at, because the higher the price, the more the surcharge is. That's one thing a lot of guys don't seem to remember, is that if you're fueling, what was it, 2-3 years ago when the surcharge got high, I mean, and the price of fuel skyrocketed, was like $5 a gallon. I didn't touch my base pay and was putting money in my pocket. I mean, I was putting money in my pocket. I didn't touch my base pay for 8 months. So that's something to think about. We had it broke down the other day to where you're actually paying, with the surcharge, now we were actually paying right around 10 cents a gallon. And truthfully, if you use the surcharge the way it's intended to, chances are you're never going to touch your base pay either. You might be running around on E a lot, but these trucks are getting such 7 and 8 miles a gallon, you should be all right. Now, I'm going to expand on something real quick. These companies with these fuel cards aren't paying pump price. You could probably knock 35 to 40 cents off that. So theoretically, you're paying for fuel and they're getting a discount. And you remember that. If I looked up on this for what I'm paying for fuel right now, I probably, well, no, I know I'm paying around $2.90. So if you're going to flat rate it at 99 cents a gallon, you're actually losing money, because my surcharge will cover all of that 100% and still put some money in my pocket. What a lot of these programs are designed to do is to give you the illusion of choice. Because if you sit here and you do the surcharge plus the flat rate, or you do the 99 cents plus the flat rate, or you do the percentage plus the surcharge, you're going to find the difference between all of those three pays on your W-2 at the end of the year is going to be nil. It's going to be such a moot point. And that's one of those weird things you kind of figure out over several years. And that's because of profit margin. And I've been talking about this with a bunch of friends of mine and a bunch of owner-operators and stuff, trying to figure this out. Well, I've been working on this, and I'll see if I can explain it. One of the things that I've heard a lot, and Josh brought this up, it's happened to me, and I'm sure it's happened to a lot of you drivers out there, where you get to a point and you're really trucking along and you're making money. It's like someone just turns the spigot off. And it's always at the same mileage. Why? Well, first of all, someone turned the spigot off. But you've peaked and plateaued. And when you've hit your profit margin, then the company sees that. And all you're doing is basically working for operating cost and a flat rate at that point, because you've hit your profit margin and you're flatlining. They don't need you anymore. You've made all the money you're going to make them this week, and they're going to concentrate on the underperforming trucks. It's dirty. And that's the best way on how to describe it. I know a lot of you guys are probably going to be like, well, it can be tweaked depending on the industry you're in and what you're hauling. But for basic general freight, once you hit your profit margin, you flatline. And there's a lot of things that go into flatlining. But when your profit margin is met, that means that all you have left now is your fixed cost and, your just basic rate. And then, of course, hours and stuff play into that, but we're not going to talk about that. But once, like I said, once you've plateaued, it's kind of over, and then the company starts concentrating on the underperforming trucks to get them up to their profit margin, because, well, it's not about you, it's about money, and it's about the company and them making money. They hired you to make the money. It sounds bitter. I don't mean it to sound bitter, because if the company's making money, I'm making money. We do have a vested interest together. So let's talk about the other pay packages. Now, the one pay package that everybody keeps bringing up all the time, and frankly, I'm tired of it because this will never happen, Well, they've tried it, and it's been a disaster. And I'll talk about that. It's guys like, well, drivers need to be paid an hourly rate. They need to be paid to sleep in the truck. They need to be paid for this. They need to be paid for that. And that was brought up in one of these videos. And Josh said if they did that, they would never have another lease driver ever again. From a driver's standpoint, he's 100% correct. Absolutely. Two things, though. First of all, you'd lose your butt. If you think you're getting paid nothing now, you wait till they pay you hourly, and then they pay you for this and they pay you for that. It sounds good on paper, but they're going to figure out a formula to where you're going to be making $30 less a week than you are now. That's just the nature of the beast. But where I'm saying this wouldn't work is that you would never see a company driver again. This would be detrimental. Now, I know a couple of companies that tried this, and they're big at the time. They're big mega carriers. They're mega companies. They did try this, and if you look now, they have third-party contractors pulling the majority of their trailers because it's the cat's out of the bag, and they've realized that they can get third-party flat rate guys to pull their trailers, power only, whatever they want. They don't have the kind of drivers that they used to have. They don't have the number of drivers they used to have. They realized this was a bad idea. This was costing them money, and they moved on from there. It's all contract freight now. That's what I'm getting at. So while it sounds good on paper, and you're like, well, you know, maybe the government should... Please stop right there. Before you say the government should fill in the blank, I want you to remember that the majority of all these problems is because the government should. That's why we have a lot of these problems, because we have unaccountable people making rules based on calculators, fixed cost, and things that friends need. Lobbyists exist for a reason. I'm already feeling dirty talking about this because I don't talk politics on this channel. But that is why we are. Like I said, deregulation was the starting point, and it's done nothing but get worse from there. And it's been the industry. Part of the reason we had these rules changed, and I'm convinced, this is unconfirmed, but I'm convinced that the big mega carriers at the time were really pushing towards team trucks, and changing the hours of service for a more healthy approach would benefit the team drivers. Now, by the way, team driving is just another way that companies screw the driver. Instead of, they're going to pay you 45 cents a mile to haul it, but they'll pay a team 52 cents a mile to haul it. Oh, but you'll get more miles and you'll turn them faster. The problem with company driving and forced dispatch is the only miles you get are the ones they give you. They can tell you everything you want, but you only get the miles they give you. That's the long and short of it. You can have all these plans and be promised all these miles, but if they don't give you miles, you don't get miles. Now, back to the lobbyists. What the lobbyists were doing was these companies were like, if we can keep this truck running 24 hours a day on 2 shifts, we can really maximize our profit. It's all fine and dandy on paper. 11 hours, that's 22 hours. Well, where's the other 2? Well, the other 2 get they get eaten up pre-trips. They get eaten up in fueling, showers. Well, I hope they shower. And things of that nature. So that's I'm convinced that's why the rules changed, because when the hours of service rules changed, that really effed things up for everybody. We don't get any more sleep than we ever did. The split sleeper, the way they got it now, is probably the best it's ever been, and it's probably the best it'll ever be. But it really just screwed things up. It created parking problems. It created an even worse driver shortage. It just created havoc. There was a lot of unintended consequences of screwing with something that wasn't broken. Now, for the most part, I know what I was getting paid as a company driver. I know what a lot of these guys are getting paid as company drivers. And here's the thing. And this is going to be the unpopular part of the video. The pay, for the most part, isn't the problem. Most of these guys you run out here just absolutely suck at money management. Not to mention, when you suck at money management and you're getting gouged by the big chains, you're getting gouged when you try to buy a shower, you're just getting gouged. So the majority of these guys, I mean, you see what they're getting paid, and even after taxes, and they're like, I can't live on that. And I'm like, how can you not? Well, you know, sometimes living isn't ideal, but it's still living. What they're really saying is, I can't live at the level I want to live at. Well, it's a process. Because I sit there and watch guys, you know, talk about, I need to make money, I need to make money, I need to make money. And then they blow it on just really stupid stuff. One of the problems we had when I first became an owner-operator, and a bunch of us guys started to get some pretty good checks. The first thing the guy wants to go out is maybe buy a boat, maybe buy a pickup, a new pickup, maybe wants to buy a motorcycle. There's nothing wrong with wanting these things. There's nothing wrong with having these things. But you increased your debt before you even knew what your level was. And that was a problem, you know. You didn't go out and buy a big screen for the family. You went out and bought a $65,000, $70,000 pickup truck. And that you should have given it a year and saw where you were at. But you live and you learn. And I know this is an unpopular opinion, but money management, this is why I talk about money management so much, is because a lot of times you are making enough money, you just suck at keeping it. And which brings up one more thing. I've often told people, if I was married and had kids, there's no way I'd be doing this. At least not an owner-operator. It's detrimental to relationships, detrimental to family, unless you have people who are on your side, and you got to have people on your side. A lot of guys go broke because they don't sit there and explain to their significant other, that, especially owner-operators, that, yes, I got a big paycheck, but 60% of it's already spent. And next thing you know, your significant other goes out and blows 80% of that paycheck because she needed something. Poor communication, bad money management. And I'm not going to tell you how to live your life because, well, you've seen the crap I buy. But that being said, I don't have a wife and 4 kids either. Getting paid is important. And this industry will spit you up and chew you out if you let it. I didn't get to this current level of success, and by the way, I could be doing a lot better. I could be doing a lot better. I just am comfortable, and maybe that's part of my problem. But it didn't happen overnight. And a lot of these guys that sit here and jump into these trucks look at guys that have been doing this for 20, 30, 40 years and be like, I want that. It's great. You want that. Well, how are you going to get it? Well, I want that today. It's not going to happen today. Guys that do it and get and hit a home run, the first year or two out, that's an anomaly. That's not the norm. It's going to take you 5, 6, 7 years, and you're going to go through some crap, maybe even a couple of companies. And the industry will spit you up and chew you up and spit you out. And I've sacrificed a lot to be here. I've sacrificed a lot to get here. And are you willing to give up anniversaries, birthdays, graduations, weddings, funerals? That's what the industry asks for. So these are things you have to ask. But I'll hit pay one more time and we'll wrap this up. When you start talking about pay and you start talking about fuel surcharge and mileage and percentage and all that, the main problem is that you don't know. And truthfully, you need to find the pay package that's going to fit best to what you're doing. If you're doing regional, I'd tell you to do percentage. If you're doing over the road, I'd tell you to do, depending on what I'm a percentage guy. As for the fuel, I'll tell you to get the surcharge the whole damn time. The surcharge hustle has become a con, and I'm very leery of it. If you're going to be out doing this, figure out what you're doing, grab a calculator, do some math. But the problem is that the numbers that you're given you're only as good as the numbers that you're given. And this is why you need to start talking to, if you're thinking about going to a particular company or you're thinking about doing a particular pay package, you got to find these guys out. It might take a couple of weeks. You got to find these guys out. You got to do the math. You got to figure out what you're doing. A lot of guys sit there, bitch and moan about things. You got to listen to them and realize it's this legit or are they just whining. But 85% of it's just whining. But you got to remember that 15% of it is legit. So you knock the whining out, concentrate on the legit, and see if there's a common stream through everything else that the other guys are talking. It's like a Google review. 90% of it's crap. So if you get rid of all the good reviews and start reading all the bad reviews, this is what I do, because most of the good reviews are just guys trying to bump up their numbers. Their friends are coming in and this and that. So if you read the bad reviews, you'll start noticing about every review, every 2 or 3 reviews, that there'll be a common thread through all of them. And that's the common thread you have to find. And when you're doing reviews and trying to figure out what you're doing here, you need to find the common thread. What is the main sticking point? And if that main sticking point isn't a problem for you, that's for you. So it's just one of those things that you need to study. And like I said, when I started as an owner-operator, I got all the numbers from the company, and they were 100% wrong. So if the numbers are 100% wrong, what do you do? Well, like I said, talk to people. They say the amount of success you have is going to be up to you. Yes and no. I did discover with a couple of jobs that as long as I was their company punk and their yes man, they would just abuse me every which way but loose, and I did make a bit of money. But the minute I bucked, they went and found a new bitch. Pardon my language. And that's just the nature of the beast. So there's not going to be a pay package that does everything you want. My best advice is to find a pay package that's straight up, black and white. The most black and white, straight up pay package you can find. Depending on what you're doing. That way there's no surprises. That way there's no hidden costs. That way at the end of the day, you and the company both know exactly where you stand. And that's pretty much why I'm doing this. My pay package is very black and white. and it's very good. If you're doing a set percentage, make sure it's a good percentage. And if you're doing fuel surcharge, make sure you're getting all of it, because a lot of these companies now are keeping a chunk of it. And if you're an owner-operator or a lease driver, I don't think it's right that they should be keeping a chunk of your fuel money. Like I said, I don't blame the drivers. It's the industry. And if the industry is going to change, us drivers are going to have to change it, but we're going to have to completely change what we do. We're going to have to raise the bar, and we're going to have to be professional. And do I see that happening anytime soon? No. Not as long as people stay comfortable. So, and not as long as people think they don't have a choice either. So, anyhow. Well, that's enough about this. So, I appreciate it. Thanks for watching. Go out there, be profitable. See you next video.